Have you ever listened to the sea at night? Not just heard the crash of waves, but really listened, as if it were breathing. Some say that when the world is silent enough, the ocean still carries the memories of those who once called it home. And among those whispers, one name always returns: Atlantis. Long before maps were drawn, before empires had borders, there was said to be a city beyond the horizon, radiant, golden, and proud. A place where wisdom and wonder walked hand in hand, where the light of knowledge touched the sea. The people of Atlantis, they say, built towers that reached for the stars, and machines that hummed like thunder beneath the waves. But the sea, it remembers what men forget. As centuries passed, the world turned its gaze to new continents, new nations, new dreams. Yet the waves that brushed the American shore carried the same rhythm that once kissed the marble steps of Atlantis. Perhaps that's why sailors, drifting off the coast of New England, claimed they heard a hum beneath the tide, a distant echo, like a city still breathing somewhere deep below. Maybe that's why, even now, we find comfort in the sea's endless voice, because it feels familiar. It reminds us of something we once were: curious, fearless, foolishly immortal. The story of Atlantis isn't just about a lost city. It's about a human longing that never drowns, the longing to build, to dream, to believe that nothing truly ends. Plato wrote of Atlantis as a warning that pride can sink even the greatest of worlds. But what if, beneath the cautionary tale, there was also a promise that stories never really die? They drift through time, through tide, until they find another listener. Maybe tonight, that listener is you. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the moon shimmering across a dark, endless ocean. Somewhere below, hidden under miles of silent blue, lies a city that once dreamed of forever. And though its people are gone, their laughter still stirs the water. Their lights still shimmer faintly in the deep. The sea remembers. It remembers every empire, every song, every fall. And as you drift toward sleep, the tide carries those memories to your shore, not to haunt you, but to remind you. Even the forgotten can be beautiful. The golden city beneath the sun. They say it shimmered like a dream, a city carved from sunlight itself. In the heart of the ancient world, before maps had names and empires had borders, there stood a city so radiant that sailors swore its golden spires could blind the eyes of gods. Atlantis, the jewel of the old seas, the city beneath the sun. Its streets were paved with marble so white it reflected daylight into the heavens. Temples of crystal and bronze towered over vast plazas, where philosophers debated and children chased shadows through fountains that never ran dry. The air smelled of salt and myrrh, and every dawn the city awoke to the song of the sea, a song both beautiful and warning. The people of Atlantis called themselves the Chosen. Masters of craft, science, and spirit, they tamed the tides, bent lightning to their will, and drew power from the heart of the earth. Their knowledge seemed endless, their pride immeasurable. To the world beyond, Atlantis was perfection itself, the symbol of what humanity could become. But perfection has a price. The sun that gilded their towers also burned their hearts. In time, the Atlanteans forgot the sea that had once carried them home. They built higher, dug deeper, demanded more from the gods than the earth could give. Myths say they angered Poseidon. Others whisper it was their own arrogance that sealed their fate. Either way, the same sea that once cradled their glory began to stir with vengeance. When the storms came, they came without mercy. The horizon turned black, and the waves rose like mountains. Golden towers cracked, crystal temples shattered, and the song of Atlantis became a scream swallowed by the deep. And yet, some say the city never truly died, that in the stillness beneath the waves, the golden domes still glow faintly, like embers refusing to fade. Divers claim to have heard faint echoes, bells ringing in the dark, as if the city still dreams of sunlight. Perhaps Atlantis wasn't just a city. Perhaps it was a mirror, showing us not where we came from, but what we might become. For every empire that rises toward the sun forgets the shadow it leaves behind. And so, the legend endures, not as a tale of loss, but as a reminder. The brighter the light, the longer the shadow beneath it. The oracle's warning. Before the sea claimed the city, one voice spoke against the tide. They called her the Oracle of the Deep, a woman said to have been born beneath an eclipse, her eyes reflecting both the sun and the storm. She was the keeper of secrets older than kings, a bridge between men and the gods. To the people of Atlantis, she was both feared and worshipped, the voice of truth in a city drunk on perfection. One evening, as the sky blazed red with the light of a dying sun, she walked into the great hall of mirrors, where the rulers of Atlantis gathered to celebrate their newest triumph, a tower that touched the clouds. The hall shimmered with gold and laughter, but when the oracle spoke, silence fell like ash. "The sea remembers," she whispered. "It waits for what was taken. The deeper you build into the earth, the higher the tide will rise to claim you." Her words rippled through the chamber, cold and haunting. The king frowned, his crown gleaming like a cage of sunlight. Around him, scholars sneered. They believed no prophecy could bend their destiny. For hadn't they conquered nature itself? Hadn't they silenced the storms? But the oracle's voice did not waver. She spoke of a shadow rising from the heart of the ocean, of a tremor that would split the marble streets, and of a night when the moon would drown in the sea's reflection. She begged them to listen, to return what they had taken, the energy stolen from the earth's core, the arrogance that blinded their hearts. Instead, they exiled her. They said she had lost her mind, a mad woman cursed by the old gods. The gates of Atlantis closed behind her, and she vanished into the wilderness beyond the city's edge. Some say she wandered to the cliffs and built a temple facing the horizon. There, she lit a single flame that burned even when the storms began. Days later, the earth shuddered. The first cracks appeared beneath the golden streets. The sea's song changed, no longer a whisper, but a warning. The oracle's words had come true. And when the flood finally came, the last thing witnesses saw, before the ocean swallowed the sun, was that lonely flame flickering atop the cliffs. Even now, sailors swear that when lightning flashes across the Atlantic, you can still see her temple for just a heartbeat, and hear her voice carried by the wind. Empires fall not by the wrath of gods, but by the silence of those who would not listen. The storm of gods. It began with a whisper and ended with thunder that tore the sky apart. At first, the people of Atlantis thought it was only the wind, a strange tremor that brushed across the marble towers, a faint humming that seemed to come from beneath the sea. But the elders knew. The priests remembered the oracle's words. They gathered in silence beneath the golden domes, listening to the heartbeat of the earth. And for the first time, they felt fear. The skies turned bronze. The sun dimmed as though swallowed by a veil of smoke. From the western horizon, dark clouds began to rise, not rolling like ordinary storms, but marching in perfect rhythm, as if driven by will. Lightning flashed in geometric patterns, sharp and deliberate, like divine symbols etched across the heavens. The storm of gods had come. Winds howled like the voices of forgotten kings. Statues toppled. The ocean withdrew for a single breath, a silence so vast it broke the hearts of those who heard it. And then it returned with fury. A wall of water rose higher than the towers of Atlantis, gleaming silver beneath the dying light. People ran to the temples, clutching relics, calling the names of gods they had long abandoned. The high priests lit sacred fires, but the wind tore through the flames, scattering them like ghosts. Even the king, proud and radiant, watched from his balcony as the horizon cracked open, lightning splitting the sea from the sky. "We were gods once," he whispered, "and now we are their storm." The sea struck with vengeance. Waves slammed against the marble streets, lifting ships into the air like toys. The great tower, the pride of Atlantis, crumbled, folding into itself as the ocean swallowed its base. Crystals shattered, gold drifted like sand. The world screamed. Some say they saw shapes within the storm, luminous beings of light and fire, descending through the rain. Others spoke of a single, colossal figure rising from the sea, its eyes blazing with judgment. Whether god or myth, no one could tell. But all knew this. The earth had come to reclaim what was hers. When morning came, there was no city, only silence. Only the endless blue, stretching from one horizon to another. Calm, deceiving, eternal. And yet, beneath the still waters, the ruins of Atlantis shimmered faintly, glowing with the last breath of their glory. It was as if the city itself refused to die, as if the sea had not destroyed it, but hidden it, preserving its memory until the world was ready to remember again. For even in ruin, the sea whispered, there is remembrance, and in remembrance, rebirth. The girl who could hear the sea. She heard voices where others heard silence. In the days after the great storm, when the waves had calmed but the sky still trembled with memory, there was a girl, no older than the first bloom of spring, with hair the color of twilight and eyes as deep as the ocean itself. They called her Lyra, though some whispered she had no true name, for she belonged to the sea as much as to the land. While others mourned the loss of towers and temples, Lyra wandered the shores, listening, not to the roar of the waves, but to their quiet murmur, the subtle, endless whisper of a city that had once lived beneath the sun. To her, the ocean spoke in a language of light and shadow, telling tales of laughter, courage, and pride that no living soul had witnessed. She walked along the broken piers, touching fragments of gold and crystal that had survived the storm. With each step, she felt the pulse of the past, the heart of Atlantis still beating faintly beneath the water. And sometimes, late at night, she would hear the voices of the lost, calling not in anger, but in longing. "Do you hear us?" she would ask, speaking softly to the waves. And the sea would answer with a shiver across her skin, a shiver that felt like memory. Lyra became a bridge between worlds. She understood what others could not, that Atlantis had not truly vanished, only submerged into the folds of time, carried in the memory of the ocean and those willing to listen. Her gift was rare, a listening so deep it went beyond fear, beyond loss, into the very essence of remembrance. Sometimes she would sit for hours on the cliffs, watching the horizon bleed into the dusk, imagining the city beneath. golden streets glinting faintly through the water, children chasing shadows across fountains, scholars reading scrolls in the echo of silence. And in her dreams, the city walked again, alive with the shimmer of sunlight and the whisper of the waves. In the quiet of the night, Lyra whispered back to the sea, telling it of the world above, of stars that shone differently than before, of the humans who had not forgotten entirely. She became the keeper of memory, the first storyteller, carrying the heartbeat of Atlantis into the hearts of anyone willing to believe. "The sea remembers," she murmured, "and so must we." And through her, Atlantis would speak again, softly, patiently, in a language that only those who listen closely could understand. The last light of Atlantis. One candle still burned as the waters rose. The night had grown heavy with salt and shadow. The great city, once golden and proud, now lay trembling under the relentless embrace of the ocean. Waves taller than the tallest towers surged with a force no human hands could tame. Crystal domes cracked, marble streets shattered, and the very sky seemed to bend under the weight of what was to come. But amidst the chaos, there was a single light, small, fragile, and defiant. A candle burning atop the cliffs where the oracle once walked. Its flame danced against the wind, refusing to bow, casting a gentle glow across the trembling sea. It was a beacon of memory, a reminder that even in endings, something endures. Lyra, the girl who could hear the sea, stood at the edge of the cliffs, feeling the pulse of the city beneath the waves. She watched as towers dissolved into foam and streets sank beneath the tide. And yet, that tiny flame seemed to whisper to her, "Do not forget us. Carry our story forward." The people of Atlantis, scrambling to survive, could not see the candle. They were consumed by fear, by the roar of the storm, by the unstoppable tide. Still, the light endured, a solitary witness to what humanity had created and what nature had reclaimed. As the waves swallowed the last spires, a hush fell over the ocean. Not silence, but something more profound. The memory of all that had been. The laughter of children in sunlit courtyards, the debates of philosophers, the music that once floated across golden plazas, all absorbed into the eternal embrace of the deep. Lyra closed her eyes and listened. She could hear the heartbeat of Atlantis, fading but not gone. It was a reminder that the city had lived, that beauty had existed, and that even in the face of annihilation, memory could survive. "We rise in stories," she whispered. "We endure in memory. And we shine, even when the world forgets." The last light flickered, caught by the wind, and seemed to merge with the stars above. And for a moment, as if the universe had paused, the city beneath the waves glowed one final time, a silent testament to ambition, wonder, and the fragility of greatness. And then, the sea carried it all away. But the light, however small, however fleeting, remained in the hearts of those who remembered, a whisper that the story was not yet over. The ocean's lullaby. The sea sang them to sleep, and the world moved on. After the storm had passed and the last towers of Atlantis had vanished beneath the waves, the ocean seemed to sigh, a deep, gentle exhalation that stretched across the endless blue. The city, though lost to human eyes, had not disappeared entirely. It lingered in the currents, hidden in the rhythm of the tide, whispering secrets to anyone patient enough to listen. Lyra sat on the cliff where the oracle's flame once flickered. The salt air wrapped around her like a blanket, the moonlight glimmering on the waves as if the stars themselves were leaning down to watch. She could feel the heartbeat of Atlantis beneath the surface, soft, steady, a lullaby carried across centuries. The waves spoke of lives once lived in golden courtyards, of scholars and dreamers, of children laughing beneath crystal domes. They told her that even empires fall, even cities vanish, but the stories of courage, love, and wonder endure. And as she listened, a strange calm settled over her, a peace born of understanding that some things, though gone, are never truly lost. "Sleep now," the ocean seemed to whisper. "Dream of us. Dream of what was. And know that we are still here, in the quiet between the waves." Even as the tides washed over the ruins, Lyra imagined the city alive once more. The streets shimmered faintly beneath the moon, golden echoes of laughter and light painting patterns across the sea. It was not the world she knew, but a memory preserved, soft as the glow of twilight. The lullaby grew in her mind, a gentle melody that rose and fell with the waves. She closed her eyes, letting the song carry her into dreams. In that moment, Atlantis was not a place lost to time, but a story that lived on, whispering to the hearts of those who would listen, offering comfort, wonder, and the promise of memory that never fades. When the waves speak again, and somewhere, deep beneath the blue, the city still dreams. Centuries had passed since the golden towers of Atlantis were swallowed by the sea. Civilizations rose and fell on distant shores, and the ocean's song carried on, indifferent yet attentive. But for those who listened closely, who dared to sit at the water's edge on a quiet night, the whispers returned. The sea spoke again, not in the fury of storms, but in gentle murmurs, subtle currents that brush the feet of wanderers, travelers, and dreamers. The city beneath the waves remembered itself through these whispers, sending echoes of light, courage, and memory to those who would hear. Lyra's story had faded into legend, her name almost forgotten. Yet her spirit lingered in the lull of tides, in the shimmer of moonlight on the waves. Children on distant shores dreamed of golden streets they had never walked. Sailors sensed music in the wind, and poets felt inspiration strike like lightning across the ocean's surface. Atlantis lived on, not in bricks or towers, but in hearts willing to remember. Even the modern world, with its steel cities and endless noise, could not silence the call entirely. In quiet coves, beneath moonlit skies, and at the edge of dawn, the ocean whispered secrets once shared with the oracle, with Lyra, with all who had known wonder. "Listen," it seemed to say. "I am memory, I am dream, I am the city you lost but can never forget." And so Atlantis became eternal, not beneath the sunlit sky, but beneath the waves, in the rhythm of the tides, in the echoes that pass from one generation to the next. The city's story continued to travel, carried in the imagination, in quiet reflection, and in every heart that paused to listen. Tonight, if you walk along the shore and feel the salt breeze on your face, you might hear it, soft, almost imperceptible, yet unmistakable. The hum of a city that refuses to vanish, a city that dreamed, that lived, and that still whispers across time. "The waves speak again," Lyra would say if she were here. "And as long as they speak, we will remember and dream." The ocean rises, falls, and carries on, as it always has. And somewhere beneath its surface, the heart of Atlantis beats still, a gentle, eternal rhythm that sings to those willing to listen. Even in endings, there is rest, she thought. Even in silence, there is song. And so the sea sang on, a soft, eternal melody, the lullaby of a city that had loved, lived, and shone, now resting beneath the waves, carrying its story to all who would hear.